Hi Dave, welcome back to the Mate Night Podcast. We're ranking every film ever made. This is episode 5, Full Metal Jacket. Should you watch it? Fred, tell us a bit about this movie.
Thanks for asking, Jamie. It would be my absolute pleasure. Full Metal Jacket is considered a classic of its genre and one of the defining Vietnam War films. Released in 1987, Stanley Kubrick's penultimate film focuses on the experience of a selection of US Marines during the Vietnam conflict. A fractured film, Full Metal Jacket is split between two rather distinct stories with not too much overlap, save a couple of characters. The first half presents the basic training period for these recruits. Then after a short time skip, we follow events in the field for two of the Marines who had previously been acquainted with. Like some of Kubrick's earlier work, Full Metal Jacket explores the psychological impact of war on both the individual and the group's psyche. Amongst other things, it is most readily appraised for its accuracy in depicting the experience of the soldier from training to field. And for many, it is not only one of cinema's archetypal war films, but it is Stanley Kubrick's final great film.
So today we're going to rate this film in 9 categories and then take the average. The first 2 categories, how much Fred enjoyed it and how much Jambo enjoyed it. So, Full Metal Jacket, a Kubrick Vietnam War classic, rated out of 10 by the Mate Night Podcast. 3, 2, 1, go.
7.4.
8.0. Okay. Yeah. Yours is lower than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, really?
I'm kind of glad.
What made you think that?
Well, it's a bloody good film, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So go on. Let's hear it. I'm more surprised by.
Yeah, I did like it, and I guess we've spoken about this before. 7 is good. You know what didn't work in its favour? This score we do now, the gut reaction, really is, as subjective as it gets for us. And we're talking about a Vietnam War film that I watched last night in between football matches and doing loads of work, and I just couldn't like really enjoy it. And I tried to take that into account, but I just think I wasn't really feeling a heavy Vietnam film. And, there was a lot of death, a lot of war. The last one we did, Apocalypse Now, I had a similar reaction to, so I don't know, maybe if it's just not a genre that I have a particular affinity for. But yeah, obviously it's a good film, but it's not like, I wasn't like, I tell you what, I would have needed to see something that made me say, wow, you know what, that's so good that it's taken me out of my mood. Yeah, and then I'd have probably given it more benefit of the doubt.
You could argue a good enough film you don't even need to be in the mood for because it's so well made.
Right.
Does it really need all the right environment and the right context and everything? If it's that good, then surely just you sit down and that's it, then you're glued in.
Yeah, exactly right. And you don't look... I didn't do it any favours, but still, like if it was that special for me, I would have given it more leeway in other areas.
Yeah, okay. No, I like it. I think 7.4 is a fast score, yeah.
8.0 then. That's pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few things that I did want to touch on with it at some point today, but basically for me, it was it was a lifeless plot. There was nothing to follow. It just felt like we were aimlessly wandering around, sometimes one person's life, mostly Private Joker. It just kind of felt, but so you've got this complete lack of a plot, really, as far as I'm concerned, where anyone's really trying to achieve anything. But everything else, as far as I was concerned, was very, very good.
Right. So it kind of, the packaging was great, but the great driving force. The great
driving force, which on writing my review for this film and all the other stuff that I prepared, has become clear to me how important it is to me to have a good driving force, and also how important the distinction is for me between the driving force of a film and then all the other details, and how they're kind of almost two completely independent things. And so you can have a film that has such a powerful driving force that you can kind of forget about the other things, and then you've got this where there was nothing pushing it forward. Nobody wanted anything. Nobody was trying to get any revenge. No one was trying to achieve anything. No one was being curious. It was just following random people. But all the other details were right. There were no really dumb moments. Well, probably were, and we'll probably go through them.
Potentially, yeah. All right, well, talk to me about some of those details then. Which ones saved it for you and gave it that good score?
Well, I tell you what, I really like it when a director manages to balance realism and kind of creative, artistic moments. Do you know what I mean? I feel like Apocalypse Now did it as well.
Which is what you really want from a realistic film. Is you know, we don't go into it watching we're not there to watch a documentary, right? We're there to actually see someone imprint their vision. Which
exactly,
you got whatever the shortcomings with the plot or the force behind it. You know, it's some brave decisions as to how he's gone about it. Like it's an atypical film, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. But and you know, you talk about some of the details. You asked about some of the details. It was absolutely fucking hilarious at moments, and then like half an hour later, it was horrifically shocking. And that kind of thing happened quite a lot throughout it, and I kind of felt like there was a lot going for it, you know. And another element of it as well was the immersive realism in that equilibrium felt right to me. I actually kind of felt like it wasn't so stylized that I couldn't grasp what it might have actually been like for the vets.
You know what's really interesting about that point, and it's something that I hadn't thought about until you mentioned it then, is how similar it is in concept to one of my favourite books, Catch-22, which the point behind that, or one of Joseph Heller's points in that, is the randomness and bizarreness of war, seemingly having these massive consequences without any real point. And so Catch-22 is like the funniest book I've ever read. And the way, without giving any details away as to the plot, the structure of the book is odd. It's a war film. That one's set in World War II. There's just a lot of similarities with how Full Metal Jacket works, where there's stark contrast between randomness, bizarre situations, bizarre behaviour, things that you just don't expect to see, everyone actually being a touch mad and just being all right with it. And then in Catch-22, what they do is essentially about maybe 3/4 of the way through the book, it's a series of stories that are increasingly ridiculous, covering characters that are incredibly bizarre, and how they interwove in this kind of Second World War setting. But then about 3/4 of the way through, all of these characters are still in play, but there are a series of more shocking events that take place. Lots of death, lots of horrific scenes, and there's such a juxtaposition between what you've seen in the first 3/4 of the film. Like, it's the first book that made me like audibly laugh out loud a lot as well.
Great feeling, that.
Yeah, and so then you get that big dichotomy going forward, and this has that exact same feel. And I didn't pick up on it, but they're both war films, and both, I guess, a message there. There's lots of similarity in the message that they're trying to espouse.
Yeah. And the same goes with Apocalypse Now as well. You know, I think they're probably I think that they're all trying to touch on the absurdity of war, aren't they, a bit? And perhaps maybe what we need is somebody to come out with a film where it's like, no, war's great. We love war.
Yeah. We need
someone needs
different.
to mix things up a little bit. Oh yeah, it's absurd. Yeah, like we didn't know that. Come on.
Yeah, what we need, I think the thing is, you get a bit tired because there's so many versions of different films and TV. Like we mentioned 3 there, where they try and emphasize the humor, the banal nature of war, almost to kind of shock you into going against the grain for all the war films that are tragic. But because we've had so many now that are also going against it, I don't know, maybe it didn't work in Full Metal Jacket's favour that this is like the last in a series of similar sort of feels.
The absurdity of war. And then specifically, I felt like Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket were very, very similar movies to me.
Yeah.
Just artistic interpretation of the absurdity of the Vietnam War. Except from Apocalypse Now actually had a story. Like Apocalypse Now actually had a series of events that felt intentional and coherent, rather than just like I'm reluctant to even say following Private Joker, because a lot of it wasn't following.
No, he really became a main character in the second half, didn't he? He was a character in the first, and then became the focal point after that.
Yeah. I don't mind. The word you used was quite good, fractured. I don't mind it being fractured, so long as at least either they both independently have something pushing them forward, or even ideally, really, they have something we're trying to achieve for this 2 hours. One of the things that I mentioned in my review is, I could have left the film an hour early or an hour later, and I kind of would have just felt no different about it. If you'd have just continued the story for an hour, or you'd have cut it off an hour earlier, it would have felt the same to me. There was no like, if you cut me off an hour early, I wouldn't go, damn it, I didn't get that result I was looking for.
Well, I specifically did do that as well.
Yeah,
I watched
exactly.
a football film in the middle of this, and I must say, exactly the same thing. I was waiting for, in my head when I put it on, I was like, there's a chance I don't watch this game if I get really invested, and I wasn't. But I knew a bit about this film going in, as I typically would about the old films, and I think although I was enjoying how it was packaged, there wasn't enough difference from what I knew for me to be like, okay, I'm really, really invested here.
Yeah. We're going to rate Full Metal Jacket out of 10 in 7 more categories: plot, character, dialogue, performance, visuals, sound, and genre realization. Here we want to determine how good a movie was, and so we do take the age into consideration. We have 2 minutes per category. First off, plot. Plot is a sequence of events which take place in the narrative. Do they make sense? Are the stakes high enough? Were there any surprises? We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating out of 10. Go. Are you setting a timer?
I'll do timer this time, shall I? All right, go.
All right, go.
Plot.
Not great plot. But if you take part 1, great plot.
Great plot.
But rushed.
Rushed.
You make an excellent point that I didn't notice. Rushed.
It's all right. What comes under plot?
Can't be a good score.
All of the little stuff. No. Yes. All of the little stuff. If that comes under plot, then it's good.
No. It doesn't. It doesn't.
So
and the way to distinguish it in photography or film is what I've learned is story and plot.
Right.
Plot is the sequence of events, and story is everything else. And so this section is exactly not the other things.
So even the bits which are kind of the story is good. So like the second half of the film, the story it's a story. Mm-hmm. It's got a beginning, middle, and an end. Mm-hmm. And some of the seeds that were planted in the first part are relevant to it. But it is really like just tired and generic.
Very naff
for a war film, right? Does it bring anything more to the table? Anything new to the table? The second half.
Second half alone, no. There is nothing there that happened that has not happened before in a...
Yeah, it was very like paint by numbers war film. The first half is
part?
Original, interesting,
okay,
but 45 minutes.
List off the plot. In the first part, you've got someone who's not appropriate for the army, goes to the army. They get humiliated and bullied until they snap and then kill somebody and themselves, murder-suicide.
Yep, okay.
That's the plot, okay? Mm-hmm. Even that, it was exceptionally well executed. But even that isn't like that new.
I don't know if it was exceptionally well executed. I think it was interesting.
All right. Well, I'm going to go out there and say like maybe like a 5. I don't know if I'd want to give it higher than a 5. I really just think the plot was absolutely diabolical.
All right, we'll go 5.
Yeah? All right, 5. Oh, hang on.
It's nice. We haven't had a bad one for a while.
So we have rated Full Metal Jacket 5 out of 10 for plot. Fred, can you tell me where that sits? Because I can't quite see it.
We're looking at about the 5th worst. 5th worst.
What's near it? What's next to it? What other 5s are there?
Exorcist is the other 5.
Exorcist
Shocking
is the only
plot.
other 5.
No, 5. Look, 5 doesn't mean it's a stinker. 5 means it's
Oh well, then I want lower than 5.
Nah. It's just worse than average, isn't it? It's a bit bad. 4s we had. Heat and a Few Good Men and Empire Strikes Back. So it's better than those 3.
Very nice.
Nice. Okay. I reckon. Look, that's where it lands with plot.
Well, did you give the gut score 7.4?
7. Yeah, or 5. I can't remember.
I don't think it was 5.
Okay, 4.
I was thinking maybe it could have been 7.2. Moving on to the next section, character.
Mm-hmm.
Character is the collection of beings within the narrative. We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating out of 10. Go.
So we've got a 10 out of 10 character.
We have it.
Clearly.
Do we have any real stinkers?
Right. I mean, for me, Animal Mother's a bit fucking... No, he's not a stinker, but he's just like... What's
Very
he doing?
so.
No, there's not. There's not any stinkers. The only one which I reckon would be, take or leave is Pyle, because it depends if you like him or not.
But do you not think that he's a really... Okay,
I like him, but, in the same way that maybe you don't like Marlon Brando in Godfather because he's a bit fucking weird. Some people think that's the greatest acting of all time.
How good is the character? How good is the character?
Oh, yeah, it's not performance, it's character. Right.
Yeah.
Character then... Oh, I reckon it's a good character. I reckon the idea of it as being a man-child is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
And it's rushed, but that's nothing to do with the character.
So I guess there's no stinkers. We got one of the greatest characters of all time. Honestly, one of my favourite characters I've ever seen in anything.
I'd say Pyle is a really good character as well.
Joker's a great character.
Joker is good. The John Wayne stuff...
Crazy keen on the cowboy guy. I thought he was a bit of a...
Yeah, I liked Cowboy. I think he was quite... Yeah, I liked when he assumed control, and he obviously had no control over the group. And I felt like it was a
interesting
character choice, and the way that his superiors both died.
Okay, I'm going to let you suggest this number. What are you going to go with?
I'm just looking at some of the 9s we've got. I think I'd want a high score. I think 9.
Yeah, I'd be happy with a 9.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about that drill sergeant is...
For me, the better question is what's in the 10s. You've got The Thing, Dune Part 2,
all right,
and Godfather.
I'm going 9.
Yeah, I think 9.
I think we've got to go 9.
Although I definitely think it could have gone amongst those 10s as well. Okay, cool. So the Mate Night podcast rates the characters in Full Metal Jacket a 9 out of 10. Moving on, we have dialogue. Dialogue is the line spoken between the characters. We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating. Out of 10, go.
Now, this is hard because,
Well, again, same person,
Drill
same
Sergeant
character.
is 10 out of 10 dialogue.
The best dialogue.
Or amongst the best of all time. Does it drag the all other dialogue up to a 10 just by being that good?
How bad is the rest of the day? For me, it's a very similar question to character.
So, for me, the dialogue is good in some parts and interesting.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's just a bit jarring. Like, yes, the tube stake into your sister was a bit weird. The scene where Animal Mother and Joker meet for the first time and they kind of square up to each other, it felt like an 80s action film, cheesy action film. It was odd.
Could that have been performance or perhaps character?
I thought it was more what was on the page.
You think?
Personally, like all the John Wayne stuff is odd. Like it's almost is it odd and that adds flavour to the film, or is it just
the question
weird?
Is how good, how well made are the things on the page, like you say?
And the other element is how much was ad-libbed. We can't take away from the dialogue.
Fair enough. On the page isn't quite right.
No, I know, but do you almost think that because it was ad-libbed means it comes under performance?
That's such a good point.
Yeah, and we don't even know how much of it is ad-libbed.
But then I couldn't not give it... Like, he needs
there's got to be some 10
10
somewhere. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think I'm going to give it a 10 for performance, so...
All right, why don't we give it a 10 for dialogue out of respect for... 10 dialogue, I must say, we've not had many. We've had greatest 2 lines. We've had Casablanca and Jaws. We've definitely got a type. We've got like a dialogue which has zingers in it.
We do, don't we? Okay, well then, I'm happy with a 10. I think that there were a list of things I recognised from it.
I'd go 9, me.
All right, we'll go 9. We'll go 9. I'm sorry.
I know, and it might be hard for us to get a 10 here because he deserves it as a character. He does as a performance, as a dialogue, as something he deserves.
Yeah. But in some ways, he has dragged all of the other scores up.
I would say, exactly that.
He's added a couple points on everywhere.
So on average-wise, yeah.
He's really changed the game. For those listening, we're talking about the drill sergeant, not Gomer. And his dialogue.
Not 8 Ball.
I need help. What?
Me so horny, baby.
Yeah. In fairness, yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
Did you see Tangent on that bit? I remember the first time I saw that scene. I'd heard that. Me love you long time.
Yeah,
me so horny.
Is that from that?
Never knew where it's from. I think it's from that, yeah.
No.
I think it's from Full Metal Jacket. That's the originator of...
You know what, man?
Me love you long time.
It almost feels wrong to give this anything other than a 10 for dialogue just because of how
iconic it is.
Like, it's changed. Nobody has come out with such a long list of, like, influential lines like that.
It's petty, but the reason why I'm sticking with 9 is because there are some things which I was just like, that wasn't particularly... I didn't really like what was on the page.
Yeah,
there.
it felt cheap.
And the ad-libbing section, like,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
he's made it up, it should go under performance. That should be an element of it.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have the same problem with performance, but
All right.
I don't think there's a very good... Yeah, next we have performance. We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating out of 10 go.
All right. Performance is... All right, Drill Sergeant, again, 10 out of 10.
Just carries the film.
I liked Joker as well.
I like Joker. Performance was good. Yeah.
You didn't like Pyle.
Didn't like Pyle.
Here's what I'd say on performance, though, right? He is in a ridiculous situation. Like, he has been asked to behave like a child, and he has quite clearly. You saw when he was copying Joker's mannerisms, when Joker is actually teaching him himself, and he's doing it. He looks like a kid doing it. It just looks ridiculous. But I feel like it's clearly an element of direction for we want you to do it in this way.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I mean, no, yeah, it could be.
I'm saying it's a hard job.
If a director says behave like a child, then that's kind of on the director. But for me, still, it just felt ridiculous. Like, it just felt so stupid.
I think I'm more saying give him a bit of... personally, I give him a bit of leeway because I think it's a really hard job to do that and do it well.
Who cares? We're rating the performance. If yeah. Okay, well, let's move on from Goma. What else is there?
We've got 5 seconds, so I reckon just snap
Anything
5.
else significance? Anything else at all?
What are you thinking? 9?
I don't.
Got a lot of 8s. All right, you know what? Here we go. Here's one for you.
Yeah.
Were the performances better or worse than Apocalypse Now?
It's just, for me, it's just so split between the drill sergeant and everyone else.
Excuse me. May I make a request then that we go with 9 out of respect again for the drill sergeant?
I'm going with 8.
Because we've given him no 10. Fair enough.
I'm going with 8.
That's fine.
It's an 8. They're just with the animal mother and with Goma. Yeah, it was a tough.
The minute you said 8, I was like, yeah, I suppose animal mother was.
It was very
meh.
And even Cowboy, I was like, I just felt like
I quite liked Cowboy's performance, but
okay, cool. So we are now moving on to the areas which we have the least expertise in.
Visuals.
So, next we have visuals, CGI, costume and makeup, and cinematography. I've got 2 ands in this list. We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating out of 10. Go.
Visuals. So in visuals, we also kind of include direction, things like that. So shot selection, cinematography.
Yeah, we don't know what we're talking about, so we just
no. So how did it make you feel visually?
Okay, well, personally, I think that it scored very high in visuals.
Cool.
I felt like the Vietnam was not portrayed as this cool, stylized place. It felt like an actual active war zone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. London.
I felt like the boot camp felt very real. I learned a couple of cool cinematography things that happened in there. So they actually went out of their way to get a lens which managed to get every soldier's face in focus during the drill sergeant training bits during the boot camp as a sort of all of these units are the same. They are all equal. No one person is in focus and one not. So there's kind of some creativity going on there, which I thought was quite cool.
And tied into their shaving of the head right at the start. These are all the same person. They only really get personalities in the second half. That's interesting. So,
did it have visuals which I'll never forget? No. But the visuals were definitely good.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking For me, it's a question of whether it gets into the 8s.
What's that 7 that we've got there? Chinatown.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah.
We've got a lot of 8s.
No, we haven't. We've got 4.
Okay, we don't have a lot of 8s.
Heat, Exorcist, Crouching Tiger, Godfather.
I'd probably say 7, you know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Cool.
Oh, we finished one early.
It does often happen around this part of the
Stuff that we...
I think usually what happens is I bring up one fact that I managed to find online about cinematography, and then we kind of go, yeah, 8. Okay, so moving on to sound. I'm going to go that way. So, have I got anything prepared for sound? Next, we have sound. We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating. Out of 10, go.
I thought when I was listening to this, actually, I was like, God, this is going to be a tough one to work out sound, because I was so ambivalent towards it.
Do you know what? I was quite looking forward to saying something there because I couldn't remember any sound stuff. No, actually, that's not true. There were some songs where I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm getting the idea here. This is what you're going
they had
for.
like...
The Bird song, which was just fucking hilarious. That's the first time I've ever heard that song not sung by Peter Griffin.
Yeah, that one, I know, was out of place. Rachel was watching it and being like, is that...
It's that thing they keep doing where it's like, oh, yeah, we do Absurdity of War.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, well, that's original.
I know, it was... I think the mix between... Cool. I felt like, you know how I've spoken to you about having a soundtrack versus having a score? Yep. It almost felt like halfway through they added a soundtrack. So the first shot from when they go into the second part is it that Nancy Sinatra song?
I can't remember, but I do remember there being another song that was good.
Yeah. It's a good... It's something like that.
His boots are made for walking.
Yeah, the prostitutes coming over.
That was so cool. That.
So that, but he's very like... This is a song from a Vietnam War film.
There were just like 2 songs, just like putting the film, and it was kind of nice to have a moment.
It was like, that's fine.
Where something interesting happened.
Was there anything? 6, 7, 6.
Okay, so 7 is average.
Yeah.
6 for me. I think when I put something in 6, I'm like, it's not good. Like it's starting to get into the bads. If it's a 6, it's like I'm not happy really. Not going to be brutal, but...
It's so hard to get a bad score in sound, I'd say.
Well, what might bring it up? The drill sergeant singing.
Yeah.
And there was the Mickey Mouse singing at the end as well, which was kind of important.
To be honest, the chanting scenes are pretty good. Oh, it's got to be a 7, though.
All right, we'll stick it in 7 then. All right.
Good
look at that. Okay, so moving on to our last category of critical score. Genre realization. Neither of us really have ever understood this one, but we think it's something like, how does it compare against the rest of its genre? We have 2 minutes to agree on a rating. Out of 10, go. Okay, so I actually saw 2 classifications for this film.
Yeah.
Vietnam War film.
That's a very specific classification.
There's actually quite a lot of films that come under that, Fred.
Yeah.
And then Vietnam War satire.
How many Vietnam War satires are there?
Probably all of them. Ooh, Absurdity of War. Oh, I'll try that, shall I? Wonder if anyone's thought of that before. Apocalypse Now, 8 years ago.
Well, there can't be many. Yeah, Vietnam.
It's not as good as Apocalypse Now, and it's definitely in the same genre.
Did I think I gave it a better score than Apocalypse.
Apocalypse Now, you gave
7.1.
Gut score 7.0, and then you gave 7.4 for Full Metal Jacket. Have I put these in the wrong sides?
But I would say then that we usually give a 10 for this, for the classic films.
How is it? Because we used to say how genre defining, how iconic, and now we're more sort of like, how does it compare to the rest of its genre, which are different. but I'd say for the classic films, more genre defining, right? I should have pressed start on the timer. This is, as war films go, this is, let's say it's a 10 for genre defining. Would you agree? No.
You wouldn't?
Well, it came quite late. You know, this is 8 years after Apocalypse Now did the same thing but with a plot.
I think it's just at the threshold of great war film. Like
genre defining, if you can, which often I can't, you got to try and remember, like, kind of roughly what order it came in. It's not like it really did anything new. It didn't define the genre. You know, like, we spent a lot of time talking about how little it actually brought new to the table and defined a new genre behind it.
Okay. But the big thing it did bring new, the drill sergeant thing, was very new. It's just the second half.
Well, yeah, okay. I don't know. Would you consider the
I would say
Napalm
the first
in the Morning guy to be kind of a bit of a drill sergeant character, just done to a very different style?
Nah, I wouldn't. I'd say
very unique.
Yeah, he's a character.
Wasn't like Full Metal
but
Jacket.
yeah, the drill sergeant being that up close and personal to the experience of a Marine going through basic training.
Okay, so but I suppose genre defining isn't really the question anymore, is it?
Genre realizing.
How much does it realize?
It's very war-y.
It's not that much war.
No, it's not that much war. Certainly, it's not very war-y.
But I suppose boot camp kind of counts.
Yeah, I suppose that's quite.
What about
war-y.
being in a press office at war?
No, Tet Offensive though. That's
quite war-y.
That's pretty war-y.
And it's definitely quite Vietnam-y.
Apart from the scenes shot in London.
Apart from the scene shot in London and on Paris Island.
Yeah. So it's not that Vietnam-y.
So it's not that war-y. It's not that Vietnam-y. But it has the drill sergeant, so we're going to give it a 9.
Right. I think if we've learned anything from this scoring, it's that
everything gets
anything to do with the drill sergeant is a 9.
9?
Go on, 9.
All right, okay.
Let's see what it ends up as.
I think it will do okay.
Do quite well. We're getting the 8s.
That's my hot take. Okay, so the Mate Night podcast has now rated Full Metal Jacket out of 10 in 9 different categories using the Mate Night system. We have ranked it the following: Fred, 7.4 out of 10 for enjoyment; Jambo, 8.0 out of 10 for enjoyment. We have then jointly agreed 5 for plot, character 9, dialogue 9, performance 8, visual 7, sound 7, genre realization 9, which brings it to an average score, a very useful word for this, of 7.71.
That is good.
That is a very average film.
Middle of the road.
What did
Missionary
you think of Full
position.
Metal Jacket? Missionary.
According to the Mate Night, Full Metal Jacket, with a score of 7.71, is the 11th greatest film of all time.
Which
until
puts it-
further notice.
I'm so sorry. We're going to have to wait till next week to hear that properly. I'm so sorry.
No, it's funny.
Which puts it one place behind Casablanca, the 10th greatest film of all time, and one place ahead of Heat, the 12th greatest film of all time. Until
Nice.
further notice.
Until further notice.
Until further notices.